Gasumai. Hey, Zach. I'm not gonna lie, it's been pretty rough these past 2 weeks. After getting better from my first sickness, I developed a cough that has not gone away over the past 2 weeks, and it's been rather debilitating. I'm exhausted all the time, and everybody in my village is concerned about it. All of the Jolas, my LCF, the other teachers at Masemba, like everybody's concerned about it, and I think it's good. I think they have a point. For a while, I thought it's gonna go away. It's gonna go away. It's just a sickness, and so for that reason, my initial plan was just to take medicine and to sit it through. But that doesn't seem to happen, and it's raised some serious philosophical problems regarding my position here at Peace Corps. You see, I'm a health worker. How can I tell people that I'm here to make their village generally more healthy if I am so obviously sick? As for what I've been doing these past few weeks, I've been doing language training in my village with intermittent days in which we go to Masimba for other training, which tends to be us sitting in a classroom listening to lectures, most of which are pretty simple. Beyond that, training in the village has been pretty good. It's been a challenge to learn. I can say one thing I have been learning is that absorption doesn't seem to work. What works is when you're trying to speak to other people, when you're trying to interact. When I simply listen, I don't pick up words, or at least I very rarely pick up words, and only when people are talking to me. And the lessons, of course. Hawa is a great teacher. Beyond that, we have the most adorable baby, our junior LCF, who is the cutest and, more importantly, most well behaved baby that I think there ever was. I've heard her cry twice, and one of which was when she literally fell on her head, so they're both very good reasons to cry. It's not like she's crying for out of nowhere. She's the most well behaved baby I have ever seen in my life. And that's Go Fatima. As for another interesting tidbit, Fatima is a name traditionally given to first daughters in the Gambia in general. I do not believe that's simply a Jola thing. It seems to be widespread, and it may be widespread across West Africa, maybe at least in Senegal. So, on to something a little more sociologically interesting. The family structure here does not follow traditional Western family structure. The nuclear family is not a thing here. In fact, it's a really complicated idea because, well, they don't have branching to the side. There are no aunts and uncles within the compound. There are no nieces and nephews. They're just parent and child. And that's not to say they're not what we would consider aunts and uncles. It's just if you have my uncle would be considered my father, and my my second cousin would be considered my son or daughter, because clearly both. And speaking of which, I actually have a host son and a host daughter. They're both wonderful people. Beyond that, it's by compound. The man will marry a wife or two or three or four, because in Islam you are allowed to marry up to, sorry, not four. Well, my mistake. You're allowed to marry up to 3 wives. All of those wives come into the compound, and all of the father's brothers are now considered parents, also considered parents to the children that those women bear. That said, the woman's brother and sister are not considered to be the children, though they are still called niece and nephew because they live in a different compound. It may seem a little confusing at first, but it's something that becomes almost intuitive after about a day of living in it. As for another interesting facet of Gambian culture, Gambians are not given a name at their birth. They're given a name 8 days after their birth at a special naming ceremony. There are different different naming ceremonies. Some are bigger than others. The important things that happen is that the head is shaved, money is given out, and the name of the child is called out. Now, as another thing that's kind of cool is they gave us, Peace Corps volunteers, a naming ceremony in which we were all given our names by the Imam, who is the religious leader in Islam. I believe the pastor would be a good equivalent. The priest, I don't know enough about, admittedly, the semantics of even priests versus pastors to know what the Imam would be most like in his role, but he is the religious leader. In the naming ceremony, I was named Abdullah Saidi. Abdullah because I am named after Abdullah, the son of my host parents. I don't know if it is the younger or elder. There are two host children, Abdullah and Alu. I would guess Abdullah is the younger, but I don't know for certain. My last name is Sadie because that is the name of the compound I'm living in, with five others that live in it. Speaking of which, my host daughter's name is Cecilia, which is kind of cool. I also am one of the few who has a Christian family. Almost all of them are Muslim, but this is one of the few Christian families. So, fun biology fact of the day, there is a type of beetle that we have been referring to as blister beetles that is indigenous to the Gambia and West Africa in general. When threatened, it will secrete a fluid from its abdomen that causes blisters to appear on your skin. And if you pop the blister, the fluid secreted from the blister will cause more blisters. And it's something that's somewhat terrifying, but after several people in Musembe were attacked by them, it's something that is apparently not very painful and, generally speaking, more a nuisance. It's a very strange world we all live in. And it turns out they are part of a large worldwide family, the Melodiae family, known for its production of the chemical cantharidin, which is what creates the blisters, and it's actually something of a agricultural problem in the US, specifically hay farmers. They can accidentally sweep up blister beetles in with their hay production, and while they're tempering the hay, accidentally crush and kill the beetle, freaking them out, producing cantharidin and high concentrations of cantharidin, which gets into the horse feed and can kill the horse or simply make it very, very sick. Now, cantharidin itself is a rather dangerous chemical when ingested because it is very likely to cause internal bleeding throughout the epithelial lining, specifically of the urinary tract and the anal tract. It also can have the side effect of, an erection that lasts a very long time. This is a rarer side effect, but one that ancient people in Greece and a lot of people in Renaissance France noticed, and for that reason cantharidin has actually been an aphrodisiac, or a believed aphrodisiac, throughout history, with a rather colorful history of people poisoning themselves or other people in, the interest of having a good time. The blister beetles here, I can't really find anything that makes them all that special, though I was able to track down the species name of one of them as Salidolita fusca, which is the black one depicted here. The other species I was not able to discover the name of, but it looks very similar, but it has a somewhere between lime and olive green body and a tan head, which makes it a lot more bright and visible to see. And those ones are the ones that actually were doing the damage, rather than the Salidolita fusca, which, to my knowledge, has not peed on anyone in Musembe. And to end on a positive note, the moon. People talk about how beautiful the stars are outside, out in the country and whatnot, but here in Soma Tabokoto, the stars are nothing next to the moon. The night sky is one of the most beautiful things here that I have ever seen, and it is the moon, not the stars, that are responsible. They say that we look up at the same moon everywhere in the world. I can assure you that's not true.